guest is Dr. DSchlundt from Vanderbilt University, and the topic is childhood obesity. Dr. Schlundt, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we'd give you an opportunity to talk about some of the causes of childhood obesity. And of course, being a psychologist, we would like to have you to sort of give us a mindset in reference to childhood obesity.
Well, I hope that I can help everybody understand why this is happening, and ultimately, hopefully, we can talk a little bit about what can be done about it. Let's just start at the very beginning, which is why people gain weight. And it's really a simple equation. Energy in, which is the food that you eat, energy out is the calories that you burn through physical activity, and whenever those are out of balance, you can gain weight or lose weight. So to the extent that millions of children are becoming overweight, it's clear that either they're eating too much or not getting enough exercise or both. And so we have to ask, now, where does that come from? Well, starting with a family, there's been a lot of changes in the last 25 years in how families operate. When I was growing up, we came home from school every day, and my mother had a home-cooked meal prepared and on the table for us. Things are very different now in most families, that often there's single-parent households or both parents are working. A lot of the home-cooked meals are being replaced by convenience foods and fast foods. So children are beginning their lives with a very different pattern with regard to eating. Second, the physical activity. In some neighborhoods, it's too scary to let your children go out and play. There are also all of these very interesting things for children to do at home. There's the internet, computer games, and then the big one, TV. Interestingly, the research shows quite clearly that children who watch more television, if you watch more than 4 hours of TV a day as a child, your chances of being overweight begin to go way up. So there's eating habits that are learned at the home. There's some of those conditions. And then let's move outside the home to the community a little bit. In earlier times in this country, when we wanted to go places, we lived in small, livable neighborhoods, and we could walk to the store, we might walk to school. Our whole culture and society has been transformed so that everywhere we go and everything we do, we rely on the automobile. And so if you think about that, you think about all of the other conveniences and labor-saving devices, the technology of our world has robbed us of our physical activity. And this is very true for children now. Children don't just go out and run and play and jump, and they're playing with their Game Boys, they're watching TV. So much of the activity's been removed from our lives. Then let's think about what's really happening with food. And it's not just that mothers don't have time to cook. Don't want to blame it on the mothers. The fast food industry spends about $13 billion a year promoting its products. Would they be spending that much money on advertising if it didn't work? No, it works. So what we're living in, and a lot of people like to talk about it as the toxic environment, so that if you sort of go with the flow as a family, do the things that are easiest and most convenient, allow yourself to be influenced by the commercials, what's going to happen is you and your children are going to take in more calories than you burn up, and you're going to watch the weight very slowly come on.
So there's a cycle that you're talking about that really produces this obesity.
And the cause is not a deficiency of the individual. It's not the mother's fault. It's not the child's fault. The problem is we live in an environment that promotes these unhealthy behaviors, that rewards us for driving everywhere. It rewards us for indulging our appetites immediately. So the problem, it's not a problem of lack of willpower or laziness or lack of self-control. The problem is we've created a modern, technological, consumer-oriented environment in which the easiest thing to do is to get fat, is to eat too much and not get enough activity. So what's happening is people actually don't want this. I mean, if you ask most people who are overweight, are you happy with your weight? The answer is clearly no, I wish I could lose 10, 15, 20 pounds. The problem is they feel powerless really to do much about it. So I want to get us kind of away from blaming the victim. It's not that our children are suddenly lazy or slovenly or whatever. The problem is we've built a world
created a society
which is unhealthy for us to live in. It's not a human-friendly environment at all. Now, why should you be concerned about this?
Good.
Well, you know, in a lot of cultures, if you look around the world, it used to be that being heavy was a sign of wealth, and it was considered good. And in fact, even if you go within certain cultural groups in our country, you will still hear people say, "Oh, a fat baby is a healthy baby." Well, perhaps when people were starving, it was true that the wealthy and successful people were able to have a little more weight. The problem is that overweight and obesity is a risk factor for a lot of diseases. And the problem is that children are beginning to develop these diseases even as young as 5 or 6 years old now. Let's just think about diabetes as probably the best example. Diabetes, if you develop diabetes, on the average, it reduces your lifespan by 1/3. So if you develop it at age 65, it cuts 1/3 off the rest of your life. If you develop it at age 15, you're talking about a lot of reduction in lifespan because of the complications of diabetes. So it's a tremendous concern if a child at age 5, 10, 15, 18 goes on and begins to develop diabetes. They're going to develop heart disease, they're going to damage their nerves, they may go on dialysis. There's a lot of things that come from that. So it's very important that we understand that childhood obesity is not a cosmetic issue, it's a health issue.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Schlunt, let's have this second commercial break, and then we'll get back and give you an opportunity to tell us what we can do in order to break this cycle. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Talking to Dr. DSchlundt from